Good afternoon all once again. So we are going to start this webinar and I request Anusha ji from Tata Trust to start this session. Thank you. Anusha ji, please unmute. Please unmute.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We are a large team and we will introduce ourselves slowly to each other. But for the initial round, I request one of the persons who has been the most supportive and has been through this process altogether, all throughout our, from the genesis to now, Dr. Biswajit Saha, to please welcome Mr. Manoj and please introduce and begin the sessions in a sense, and then we will go on and forward with it. Dr. Biswajit Saha, over to you.
Thank you, Anusha. Good afternoon, everybody. I think we are in a perfect track of experiential learning. So just to begin with, a lot of known faces are just before me on screen. Of course, I am not able to see all of you, but with my limited screen space, I am trying to scroll as many as possible. So, good afternoon. I think some energized good afternoon. Of course, you can say
good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Dr.
Good afternoon, sir.
Saha.
also experiential learning. So, Professor
Everything is
Parmadi
experiential these days.
From TIS, Anju from MGIS, and all Tata Trust representative, Bobby and others. I think our chairman, Sri Manoj Ahuja, he will join maybe within few minutes because he is busy with some ministers meeting right now. So once he will be free, he will join, and immediately we will request maybe whoever will be taking the sessions. After some time, we will request the chairman to address entire gathering. My colleague, Dr. Joseph, Director Academy, and other colleague from academic unit, and all the COE head who are actually instrumental in executing this mission. And of course, Sandeep has started. He's another personality who is very much instrumental in gearing up. And of course, now we are looking into this experiential learning as a reality. Now, just I'll take 1 or 2 minutes maximum. So just give a backdrop. As we all aware of, our present Secretary MHRD, Madam Anita Karwal, she conceptualizes this idea of experiential learning in school. But this idea or concept is very much there in reality. Many of our school leaders are practicing it already. And in fact, how that uniform standard would be visible to all CBSE schools. So for that, we requested Tata Trust, and of course, MGIS and TIS is fundamentally the practicing and doing lot of researches and how to bring this experiential learning as an online module. So ultimately, with the support of our academic team, because they brought this experiential learning manual, and that becomes a core concept paper which is visible, and from that we started the work. And MGIS, I like to highlight here because they are actually implementing the experiential learning on ground, and special thanks to both Anju and Pascal. And now comes to the TIS. TIS again, they are giving huge emphasis on that experiential learning and other research aspects of the learning. And then a technical core team has been evolved, and ultimately this particular course we have launched. Now, a special thanks I think I have to give to Xstep team, because Diksha is a platform through which we are actually trying to execute this course. But of course, some negative phenomena is also there. I think in the beginning itself, I must share. So far, we are not able to implement and execute this course for our foreign schools. So our training team, especially Sandeep and all COE, are actually working upon how to upload this program, maybe in the this platform or maybe through Google Meet. If we are able to position this course, then all our foreign schools who are not getting access of Diksha, they will also try to access this course, and within very few days they can complete the course. Now, why experiential learning? Because if you see, as I have mentioned, that many of our school leaders, they are already practicing. But again, if we go back to our traditional policy, whether it is Gurukul or whatever the policy papers we have seen, everywhere that practice-based learning and connecting with the real life was highly emphasized. But after doing so many things, even many principals are sharing their thought process, that even that they many a times give us the feedback. Okay, my teachers are qualified, very much qualified, but even then they are not able to connect with the student. Now, maybe this kind of experiential learning could be a tool to connect with the real life, and doing something and experiencing something on their own. If mother's love cannot be defined on text, but we all experience and experiencing also, and whenever we become parents, that is also. Now, why can't the same thing, same analogical thought process we can bring into the classroom, so that ultimately the student of these generations can enjoy their classroom experience or the whole school's experience? So many times we confused, or many times we are stuck up with our own bearings, and ultimately we try to suppress whatever things we want to do. And maybe the traditional pathway we follows, and ultimate outcomes is very much visible before us. So my humble request to all of you, these webinar, actually, we are just organizing to sensitize. You are already sensitized, nothing to sensitize. So maybe our mentors are going to take you through some real kind of experience, some activities, and I believe through that process, many doubts may come to in your mind, and let us encourage this doubt. And this doubt may not be addressed by only one day session. So some of your queries will be fulfilled through your own experience, and some, of course, by us. And here the model of operation would be this module, that online modules we have uploaded. It has its own structure. There are so many positive sides. Maybe one or two negative sides are also there. Maybe real terms, connectivity with respect to the course, you may find some problem, but maybe in our second phase, we may try to correct ourselves. But all our school hub leaders or lead collaborator and all district coordinator of CBSE Center of Excellence, they are supposed to take a lead role to implement this course, so that by coming 2 to 3 months, based on your own convenience, you are supposed to take that course. And without taking the course, even all the school leader may not comment upon it. So first of all, my request would be, school leader must take up this course, and they becomes the mentor for their own schools or neighboring schools. Then automatic doubt clarifications will be there. And we have a higher objective, to reach all our 10 to 12 lakhs teacher through that course. So this is our higher objective. And second objective, we give COE Center of Excellence conducted a lot of training. And you are the mentor, because all these visible principles, you are our mentor. You are actually, as a resource persons, take up the course. But in real sense, if we involve you to bring some kind of impact study, then you may come up with so many negative things about our training. We want that these things must come out, so that if we are executing or we are organizing a lot of training, but if it is not really reaching to the classroom, no matter now, of course, through online mode also, you can experience. And we need to take the feedback from the parents about the teachers, from the student directly, and their relationships. If it reflects, yes, this kind of experiential learning based module is really going to help us, then I think the purpose of conducting this kind of webinar is, of course, is a huge success for all of us. So with this word, let me stop here. I think whenever Chairman CBSE will join, I will introduce him, and then we'll listen him. But in between, without disturbing the schedule, let Tata Trust and MGIS and TIS take up the sessions, and हम लोग भी कुछ देर के लिए एक्सपीरियंशियल लर्निंग का मॉड्यूल में खुद को इन्वॉल्व करते हैं. Thank you for joining us. Thank you once again. Please enjoy the session.
Thank you so much, sir. And you can all make out that he has been right through the conception stage to even giving us feedback as the modules were coming through. The director really directed us on skills and trainings in a sense. We hope that we will enjoy these sessions and we will continue. But I now give over the charge to Dr. Anju Chazot, who is from Mahatma Gandhi International School, and as Dr. Saha pointed out, one of the stalwarts who has architected the course in a way. So Anju, over to you.
Hello, namaste. I hope everyone can hear me clearly. And if you can,
yes, Anju, yes.
On behalf of them, yes.
Okay, great. So thank you for giving me this space today, and we're going to go through, I hope it will be an interesting session. I'm going to be on camera for some time because I'm going to involve you in a little bit of an activity which is going to get your, first of all, your brain working, the cells in your brain, and then going to connect with your body. Because if the body and the mind are not present, then you're not going to have much of a takeaway. So let's begin with the first very simple activity. By the way, this is Pascal, my co-founder with the school, and we both always work together. We both are, of course, teachers, first and foremost by passion, by choice. And it's always a buy one, get one free program. So we always come in twos. So don't be shocked to have him sitting here. Let us start with the first activity, which is a starter one. You're going to put your fists in the front with all the participants, and then put your thumb out and your little finger out like this. So in one hand, you put your little finger out and the thumb, but both should be in the same direction. Then you take them in and reverse. Thumb out of the other hand and the little finger of the other hand in the other direction. So it's a very simple thing to do. And I know some of you have done this with me before. This is not difficult to do. But what it does is it starts getting your little neuron connections in your brain going. Why are we doing this? Essentially, the brain has conditioned responses. There are neural pathways which follow the same circuit every day. And when we talk about experiences, then we need to bring in new experiences to forge new connections in the brain. And that's something that, of course, the domain of neurosciences has been revealing. Now let's do one more activity, which is from our own culture. Okay, and I'm going to do a little mudra for you. In order to choose a mudra, and you're all going to follow the mudra, I actually picked up this box, which is mudras. It's called mudras from Amazon.in, and these are oracle cards. That means you pick up one which is relevant to you. It should just come to you. And what came to me for today's activity was a mudra, which is known as Shankh Mudra. I'm sure many of you know this. But what I liked about it is that it was written reassurance. So the benefit of this particular mudra is reassurance. So let us do that very, very easily. I'm going to do from my opposite hands so that the mirror effect doesn't confuse you. So you can follow it very easily. Essentially, you're going to take the left hand out, so your left hand with your thumb out, and you clasp with your right hand your thumb. Okay. And then you turn your hand and join the fingertips with your thumb. So I'm going to do this again. I'm doing it in the opposite hands so that you can see it. Thumb, clasping it, shift a little bit and touch the fingertips with the thumb, and then you can just take it down. And what I'd like you to do just for the next 10 seconds is to just take 3 deep breaths and reconnect to your body, becoming more centered and more present to yourself. And to tell yourself with the focus, all is well. And self-reassurance guides me to perfect well-being. So we are going in for self-reassurance, and it's guiding me to perfect well-being. And as you do this, take a deep breath and release all the tensions, all distractions right now, so that in the next 1.5 hours, we are together as a big group, even if we are separate physically. All right. Now that you've done it, thank you for doing that. We're going to go to the next part, because till now, the activity has been one way. I'm doing something and you're doing something, but we're not interacting with each other. So let's see how can an activity also become interactive. So I'm going to now present myself with my mudra to members of the TIS and Tata team. So I'm going to choose another mudra, which is known as a Prithvi mudra. And I'm going to say, Namaste, I'm Anju.
Namaste, Anju.
Okay, so I've got somebody saying that. So can you come on camera and just show your mudra and do your mudra and your name? Yes.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste, Mrs. Anju. This is Sharda Chandrasekhar.
Namaste.
Anju, this is Adesh Singh.
So we cannot see your mudras. So if some of you are on camera, specifically the Tata and TIS team, if you could just come on.
I think we are, but each of them are also on the camera.
Namaste, Chitra Subramanian.
Namaste,
Okay.
it is
I can see
Vansipriya.
that.
Namaste, Anurag Gupta.
Namaste.
Namaste, Insana from Pune.
Okay.
Namaste, I'm Shibu.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, we will not be able to do everyone, but it's nice that some of you have been able to present yourselves, because we are many, many people today. So thank you. I would request you to pause mute yourselves right now. Thank you. And can I ask Bobby to present herself? With a
Namaste. Namaste. This is Bobby from Tata Trust, and this is my mudra.
Okay, great. Can we have Anusha again?
Hi, I think, I don't know whether I'll be visible, but this is Anusha, and this is my, I don't know whether it's a mudra, but this is quite similar.
Okay. And can we have Kritika? And Bindu?
Namaste. This is Bindu. I'm from TISS.
Namaste, I'm Kritika. I'm from Tata Trust.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and we have one person left.
Namaste. This is Naveen from Tata Trust.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste. Kamal.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you very much. We are going to now mute the mics. Please mute your mics, and I can request Naveen to start with the presentation. The first thing I want to do is now to analyze this little starter that we did. So this is going to be part of the experiential learning methodology that you're going to have a look at in the course itself. And the first thing is that, when we come into the classroom and we do an activity, very often children are already there with their own distractions. So they're scattered, their energy, their mental attention is not there. So to begin with a short 3-minute, 4-minute starter focuses their attention onto something. But of course, it shouldn't be just about any starter. The starter should have 3 very important fundamental points. One would be, of course, that it should be in context with a real life situation. So I don't know if you can see the slides because I can't, but that's okay. If you can, I'm all right with that. Oh yes, I can.
Yeah, we can see. Yeah.
Great, thank you. So as you can see, the starter should be in context with real life. And here, my starter, or the starter that we presented to you, is connected with real life in the sense it's bringing the attention of the learner to the body. The second point about the context is that what is it easy for the child to do? Nothing very challenging or too difficult, just bringing the awareness and attention into oneself or with the group. In terms of methodology, I would say that each participant should be active. That's really important. Now, I'm going to take just a minute to explain this. Very often in our traditional learning, as we all know, it's the teacher who is active. The teacher is speaking, the teacher is presenting, the teacher is demonstrating. And in that methodology, it's the teacher who's active and the children are passively listening, if at all. We know very well, you and I, all of us, we've been through seminars, we've been through conferences, and you can sit in a chair, nod away, make all the wonderful gestures to show that you're very attentive, but you're not. Your mind is somewhere else. So if the learner is active, if the learner is moving, if the learner is doing something, the attention is there in that moment. You're bringing the presence into the moment of now, and you're not in the past, you're not in the future. The second point about the methodology is not only active as an individually, it should be interactive. So with our own starter, as you notice, it began with individual participation. All of you were probably following, doing the finger exercise, the brain gym. It's known as a brain gym. You'll find lots of it on YouTube. And we were also doing it with the mudra thing. That was then also individual with the whole group participation. Now, how did we make it interactive? When I greet somebody, so I sing, hi, I'm Anju, and my class group, my colleagues in my class, or the other teacher participants greet me saying, hello, Anju, and copy my mudra. So in that moment, there are many Anjus in the class, and there are many mudras. The same mudra is reflected. Similarly, another participant then says his or her name, gives a mudra, and I accept that mudra, and I say the name of this other participant. So what is this essentially doing? It's a very simple activity, but it brings in an acceptance, a recognition of the other person, rather than just giving a simple introduction of, hi, my name is, and everybody's already switched off. So that's the idea. There has to be spontaneity, there has to be creativity, and each person is bringing his or her own mudra. I'm not giving just my mudra to everybody. I'm also taking other people's mudras, or gestures, or actions, or words, or objects, whatever it may be, okay? So this promotes group bonding. So my first point about starter activities, why are we doing it? Apart from bringing the attention in, it's also as an icebreaker. Kids have their conflict, teachers have their own little groups. So in order to do something simple, which breaks the ice, that's really important. And the third point is, of course, it should be related to the topic we are studying. Now, of course, here there's no one topic, we're just talking about experiential learning. But let's say it was a mudra itself. Let's say, all right, even this particular starter, how would I use it? How could it be related to the content? Maybe I'm doing languages in Hindi. So I can explain the mudras in Hindi. उनके जो नाम है, अलग-अलग मुद्राओं के जो नाम हैं, उनके बारे वो क्या हमारे शरीर को क्या लाभ होता है, all of that can be done. Similarly, it can be connected to biology, to the body, to the body systems. What part of the body is that particular mudra acting upon, etc. So there I can be connecting to either science or well-being. So this is just a quick idea about what can be done. Next slide. So that's what I just mean about it being relevant. Now let's have a quick overview of the experiential learning course. Next slide, please. You know, we are all coming from a colonial, I mean, our education is a colonial inheritance, and we all know that. We know that the education models which have come to India, India being a colony of the British, we inherited something that is popularly known as a prison model or the factory model, coming from the Industrial Revolution in the last centuries. The prison model, of course, I don't need to go into it, but a lot of things are coming from the prison model. The uniforms, it's Michel Foucault who talks about it, and I have mentioned that in some of my talks. Of course, the cell structure, the fact that there are timetables, the school bell, this body control over the body of the learner, not to move, not to speak, etc. All of this is coming from the prison model, including the morning assembly and the roll call and the monitor system. So now the point is, how do we move away from the systems that we've inherited and make it more relevant for our context? So this experiential learning methodology that we are using, that when we did it in Mahatma Gandhi School, and let me just tell you that Mahatma Gandhi International School is a school which is run under the Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation. So it is actually a municipal school that has offering international programs as well. But the idea was to bring in innovative learning. So it's a trust, it is run under a trust of the municipal corporation. So when we started this particular methodology, well, we call it generated resources learning, because learners are generating their own resource. And what's one of the main resources we can use? It's really the existing resources, your body and the space. So the idea was to using a methodology means to make learning easier, joyful, purposeful and active, which means that there must be certain steps. All right. Now let's have just a framework, very quick framework. You know, when we talk about experience, everything is an experience. When you're sitting and listening to somebody make a presentation, that's an experience. Boredom is an experience. Ennui or hating something, that's an experience too. So what we are talking about is a positive experience. That's what John Dewey, of course, a father of experiential learning, says. It's a quality of experience that's really important. The other point important in experiential learning is that we must move from concrete to abstract. That means that our learning, understanding must be based on concrete experiences that the child constructs, and from there we can eventually go to the abstract definitions, concepts, etc. What is often happening in the classroom situation, we're doing the opposite. We give the definitions before and then we ask the children to apply it. So what we are saying is, do the opposite. Start with simple concrete things and then progressively go to abstract things. And that's, of course, what Piaget also talks about in his theories. Now let's come to our great Indian philosophers, thinkers, educators, beginning with Gandhiji's Nai Talim. Gandhiji, of course, mentioned his entire work was to show that children must be doing things, it must be related to real life context, and children must be active. And that's, of course, in Nai Talim. We have Tagore, who brought in the whole idea about connection to art and nature and learning from art and nature. We have Sri Aurobindo, who spoke so much about the holistic learning at all levels, and he included the psychic and the spiritual component as well. And then we have Krishnamurti, who brought in the greater intellectual ideas about a very questioning and critical spirit, a discerning spirit to everything that we do. Now, when you look at all four of them, all in the similar time period in this country, we think we should borrow of, come back, decolonize our education in a way, and come back to fundamentals which are related to our country, our culture, our philosophical frameworks, and then work on them. So let's go to the next slide, and you're going to see what's the methodology of this particular course. In this course, what we've started with are three main aspects or three main blocks. One would be the starter activity, one is the main activity, and there's a reflection. this is not very difficult to understand. So the starter activity, we already touched upon it, but let me go through it again. One is that it should be used for group bonding as an initiation to the topic, okay, and use the different senses. So what do we mean by that? And of course, in the experiential learning handbook, which has been given, we have again mentioned that the multisensory experience is very important. We are human beings who have not only 5 senses, but probably more than the 5 senses. We have the 6th sense, we have the intuition. In the classroom situation, children who come naturally gifted with so many senses, we are slowly conditioning them to less and less use of senses. And the more you use the different senses, the more your consciousness will expand, the more powerful you become in terms of your thinking, reasoning, and perception of the world. So when we say different senses, we are talking about the kinesthetic sense, the sense of touch, movement, sense of smell, taste, listening. Of course, the visual part is also there. One of the things that you will see in the experiential learning course in the films is something that is often known as embodied cognition. Embodied cognition refers to the use of the body and using that in the learning experience. So you will see them becoming an airplane. You will see them becoming parts of a machine. If you want to do something about simple machines, children take up. You want to do grammar, children become different components of a sentence, and your syntax is done. And each group then stands and shows their sentence, and they can move around and play around with that. So the whole idea is, when you're asking the children to become something, they are completely in that moment, they're involved, they're engaged, the engagement is higher. Second thing about embodied cognition, and in the field of neurosciences, it has shown that the memory and retention and recall are far higher when children are engaged in purposeful, meaningful activities, and when they are enjoying it. So of course, any strong emotion will have an impact. You know, school systems are functioning on either fear, mostly they're functioning on fear. And what do we mean by that? Children are scared about tests, they're scared of by exams, they're scared of a lot of things, you know, teachers' remarks or negative remarks, etc. Or the principal, you know. So this fear is also a motivating factor in some ways, but it's a negative kind of a thing. So let's look at something more positive, which would be love, which would be positive validation. And that's what we're talking about. So this is so the main activity now, which is very important, is that children have to be active. Again, I'm just coming back to the same thing. Remember, when the teacher is telling a story, the teacher is active. Children are listening. They're not active. They're listening to the story, but they're not actively engaged in it. But when you're asking the children to construct a story, they begin to be involved. You're telling the children to find out something, guess something. Even if you're telling a story, pause and saying, all right, now, what do you think this character said? Or whatever, because right now I know we're talking about Zoom and we're talking about, you know, distance learning. So we will have to find ways to engage the children, ways to make them active. That's number one. Number two is, again, group interaction. This is going to be a very, very valuable thing in the world to come. You know, ultimately, a lot of content can be learned online. If we have to pass exams only, then we can just go on to Khan Academy and other such courses online and learn. Why should children be coming to school at all? And that's going to be the fundamental question after the COVID, when the schools reopen. If I can do everything online, then why don't I just do it online? And I think this is going to shift the debate to the real function of the school and the role of the school teacher, which is the care, the nurture that we're going to bring to the child. It is that validation that the teacher brings to the child in that moment that builds, which is the building block of the young child's life. That an algorithm on the internet is not going to do. Any amount of your pre-fabricated software programs is not going to do that. And that's why I think as educators, as school principals who are struggling, some of them are struggling very hard for the fee structures and other things. This is important to remind that yes, when we come back, we will be doing things which they cannot do online. And group interaction, which is collaborative learning, is a very important thing. Let's look at it this way. You know, when children go into the real world, they will need to know techniques of communication, techniques of conflict resolution, you know, decoding visual cues, putting their own points of view across, which an online simple learning program is not going to do. So that's one thing. And of course, main activity must later and it will real life context. To give a simple example, we're talking about letter writing in so many schools. If the children can just use the Right to Information Act, I'm talking about slightly higher classes, okay? They use the RTI and they write a letter to the local department to, let's say, clean the garbage outside their school or any other traffic issue that they're facing or whatever it may be. Now that is linked to the real life context, or something that the children really want to do, create a music band. So, this is an important thing. What are the children, what's meaningful to the child? And remember, till the British came to India, schools were operating with complete autonomy. And the teacher knew, the school knew what to do. The centralization of education was a British move to bring everything under their control. Today, we are lucky that the policy documents in India are very progressive and they're giving us back our autonomy, especially right now in the current context, to be able to decide what we want to do, as long as we are just fulfilling the particular concepts. We can do in any which way we want. So the concept building can be done from concrete to abstract, and the overall reflection. Now, experiential learning without reflection would be useless. They'll have fun, they'll play games, and they're going to just go back home not really having articulated. So the moment of pause after that, asking children to individually reflect, and then exchange in groups. You're going to see this in Unit 3 in the experiential learning program, how to do the reflection as well. Because that's also an art. You just don't tell kids, well, now reflect upon it. How do you reflect? And you're going to see those techniques in the course. All right, next slide. So, now we took something called the paper planes. You're going to probably see a nice feature film coming through later on. The last minute editing is going on because of the COVID, we were all a little stuck, but we'll be releasing the film shortly. When we started with the think tank a year ago at CBSE, we wondered what kind of a project or a little activity can be done in any school with great ease. And I've worked in a lot of different contexts, whether it is in villages or whether it is with NGOs or even in some very elite schools. And I thought, let's first do something which is not dependent on technology, so that no school can say, look, I don't have electricity, or I have issues with internet connectivity, I don't have iPads or computers or whatever. Let's do something really simple and easy to do, where teachers don't have to run around to get 5 different things. I know how burdened teachers can be because I'm a teacher myself. So we looked at the idea of paper planes. And as children, we've always done this. We have made boats and we made paper planes and we've thrown it around in the classroom and we were utterly bored out of our minds. So I thought, why don't we take that up and map the learning around that? So it was simple and easy to do. It brings in a lot of different skills, from psychomotor skills to folding, geometry, etc. It can be adapted to different age groups. It's very playful and creative. You're going to see the different ways we've used that, and it can be connected to different disciplines. So you can have, we're doing distances with that, we're doing mathematics with that, we're doing geometry, we're even doing language and creative writing. You're going to see that. We're doing physics with, in higher classes. So I know, why did we choose the higher class? It's because a lot of teachers feel that creative learning or playfulness, we can do it in younger classes. But jab concepts bahut mushkil ho jate hain, when concepts are hard, then we can't really do this kind of learning. We have to now start writing on the blackboard, and kids have to then start mugging up definitions. And that's exactly what we wanted to show. You can do physics with just a simple paper plane. So there are things like that, of course, in the modules you're going to see. Another point is that paper planes is a nice metaphor, isn't it? The whole idea about flight, every human being has always wanted to soar. And that's why we thought that let's use that as a metaphor. And, from just from a blank sheet, to use your own skills to fold it into something and to let it fly, that becomes a very powerful statement about student empowerment. And another thing that we've done in this experiential learning course is the integration of mindfulness. Now that's something really important because everybody's talking a lot about mindfulness, okay? And we know what has happened. A lot of schools have done yoga, so it's half an hour. Yoga ho gaya, abhi chalo, abhi jaake textbook kholte hain, let's study. That's good. It's great to do that already. But I'm saying, can we not make everything interconnected? Because yoga has so many other benefits. Or intuition. So we've used intuition and mindfulness in the classroom, but we've linked it actually to the activity itself. So it's not separate. And this is an important part of experiential learning because it brings in a lot of interdisciplinary connections. And if we can do that, then in life also we'll be able to see those connections. I'll take the analogy of the human body. You know, we're talking about a time when the whole world is going through a pandemic. Just think about this, that the human body has been fragmented also. This fragmented body, you know, knowledge systems which went on into over specialization. We lost the connections between different things. Similarly, if you in your body you have a headache, you'll go to an ENT specialist. If you have a stomach ache, you'll go to somebody else. You have a knee ache, you'll go to somebody else. But you don't see the whole human body as one system, and the fact that it's struggling, it is expressing itself in different ways. So to see the connections between different systems is very important, and that's what's happened to the knowledge body, where we have chopped the knowledge systems into really different fragments. So, and speaking of the relevance of this kind of learning, I will come back to this related to stress after this, because it's an important point. So why are we talking about mindfulness? Why are we talking about all of this? Because in the current situation, it's so important to find ways to de-stress. If the COVID has taught us any one thing, it is that it is highly contagious, and ultimately it is your own immunity which is going to protect you. And what is immunity? It is just the response when your stress becomes high, your immunity goes down, because the telomeres on your chromosomes start getting shorter and shorter as the stress levels go high. Now just think of this, educational systems the world over are creating stress through their classroom systems by testing, by, you know, marks, and I'm going to get less marks, and, you know, this whole system is creating stress, competitiveness. Now this stress is creating more adrenaline in the body, which is becoming totally toxic for the children. And that's why we need to have a school environment and a learning pedagogy where the children are stress-free, where we release that. Education becomes a liberating experience and not an inhibiting one. So that's why all these aspects are very important. Can we go to the next slide, please, Naveen? Thank you. So now let's think about how can we shift from the teacher being in control. And this is being spoken about it was in the NCF, and it's also in the National Policy on Education, the recent one. The point is that the teacher has always been in the mode of control. The teacher is the one who has the knowledge, and the teacher is what we would call the epistemic center. That means the teacher is the source of everything. Now we need to we need to decentralize. We need to shift this control from the teacher into the learners. Now, how do we do that? One important point in that pedagogically, sorry, is to give children the choice. Okay, so we'll have a look. How does that happen in the course? In the next slide, you're going to see. So in different parts in the course, you will notice, for example, in Unit 1, video film, the teacher asks the children, so here you can see in this photograph, the children are showing a plane by becoming different parts of a plane. And the other, then the teacher tells the children, all right, now you make some changes, and the other group is going to guess what changes have you made in your representation. So every time what is happening, the children are the ones who are choosing to do something. The teacher is not directing them. She says, make any shape, show me a plane. They're different groups. So one group does it, another group does it. All the time we're choosing to do different things. So this element of choice where you ask children to do something on their own is very important. Next slide. Similarly, you will see in the Unit 2 also, the children are asked to choose any flying object. So they go outside and they pick up objects that they think they can fly, and they bring it back into the classroom. So what's the difference? See, the teacher can bring in some objects and say, look, this flies and this flies. That's a demonstrative mode. But I'm not in that mode at all. I'm telling the children, all right, what do you think can fly? Go outside, find it. So you're connecting with the environment. They're going outside, they're searching, they're totally engaged, and they come back, and then you will see them doing a very interesting classification activity with all the objects that they bought. And in that sense, you can do sciences, you can do languages, you can do arts, you can do many different subjects mapped on such activities. The next slide. Here again, when they're sitting in a circle, each child is asked to become a flying object. and others have to guess. Now, this is a very important thing. You see, when one child is showing something and the others have to guess, everybody's engaged. This is very different from a simple presentation mode. I know that even I have faced that situation when a subgroup is presenting something to the rest of the class goes to sleep. The group which is presenting is active, the others are just not interested. Ki, haan, kar lene do, hamari bari aayegi, we'll do it. You know, so as a teacher, my main challenge is how do I ensure that all the other kids are engaged in this child's presentation? So we always make it a game and we say, all right, you will have to guess it. So you will have to guess it. That's really very important. The next slide. And here again, in the unit 2, the children have made paper planes. And the teacher now tells the children, can you make a change in the design and see if it'll fly better? Just make your own change as you wish. So again, the children are ideating, experimenting on their own, making the changes and testing the little paper planes to see whether it flies better or it doesn't. Next one. Yeah. So, you know, now I think this is very important that I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, this is great, but we are in a COVID situation right now and we have to do things from, you know, through Zoom and online learning. How do we do this? So the first thing I want to tell you is that whatever we've prepared is important. It was done before the COVID struck. So of course, many of the activities or similar activities, whenever you do it, when the school reopens, you will have to do with social distancing. That is important. But some of the activities that we are talking about allows for learning in open spaces as well. It makes children active, then that is much more healthier. When the kids come back to school, it's going to be very important to use the body and space so that, because children have been in confinement for very long and they will want to move, they will want to have the emotional connect with their classmates. This is going to be the fundamental need of the kids when they come back. There has been trauma. Isolation creates its own trauma for little ones to older children. The third point is, of course, to really work on therapeutic strategies, you know, art and expression and using the body and paint and role plays and things like that, creating their own stories, collages, whatever, so that the positive emotions and well-being is promoted. Not looking at formula, not looking at content. The content can be mapped like we looked at with the paper plane activity. And the final thing is going to be about collaborative learning and reflection. You know, when children are alone, you are getting only one aspect of the reality. Let me remind you of this little story that we all heard when we were children, you know, the Jataka tales, Panchatantra tales of the elephant with 5 blind men. And you remember that story, isn't it? Where each of the 5 blind people can only experience the elephant from one part of it. So somebody thinks the elephant is a tail and somebody thinks it's only the trunk. As human beings, this is our experience of reality. When we perceive the world with our own filter, and therefore we have a very narrow perception of reality. When we interact with other people and we share our experiences, we share our reflections, then what happens? We get to have another perspective about the reality. And then that's how we can multiply. So if all the 5 blind men could communicate, then they would be able to communicate and get some sense of the elephant. And this is very similar to Piaget's own experiment that he did with the young children of the mountain, which you might very well know about. So these are, I think, important points. What I'd like to then therefore now talk about, just before I end, is the fact that, you know, I know that this question about how do I now make experiential learning happen through the computer and online. Now, of course, personally, I think there is only a limited number of things we can do when we're doing online learning. Let's face it. But having said that, can we make even the online learning joyful and, you know, happy? Can we do things? Can we make kids go into their kitchens and bring things and experiment with their own context? Can we make them do art and poetry together? So, you know, can we still use different apps that allow chat rooms and breakaway sessions to make them into subgroups and do things? That's going to be the challenge. I'm hoping to be able to share with you some ideas in future forums or other forums. Right now, we don't have the time or the space to go towards that, but this would be a good thing to think about. How can we bring in this methodology, make it joyful, even in terms of blended learning. And the other point would be very important. Let's not forget, many children don't have access to internet and technology, and therefore those children shouldn't be left behind either in the learning experience. So we will have to think about ways of reaching out to those children, but that's also a matter of future discussions. In the end, what I'd like to say is that, Gandhiji said this, and it's nice. We've always read these quotes, but let's think very deeply about it. Literacy in itself is no education. And he says, by education, I mean an all-round drawing out of the best in child and man, body, spirit. And that's so important, because the body and the mind, they are linked. And what we've done in schooling, in traditional schooling, is we've separated the mind from the body. We have believed that something abstract is going on at a higher level and the body is functioning at another. The body has to be static and passive, finger on your lips, and whatever I give, it will be all stored here. In fact, nothing is stored here. We all know this goes somewhere else. So how can I ensure that everything functions together to become present in my body? I'd just like to say this, my personal struggle has been, conviction has been, the body has been in exile in education for centuries. And there is a reason for it. It has been in exile due to the Western systems, the Western traditional systems, not in the Indian traditional systems. And therefore, we need to bring back our own cultural and philosophical frameworks into education, to decolonize our education, to make things more relevant, especially in the current context. So in the end, Gandhiji said, if we are all teachers, who will be the learners? Let's all be learners. So I'd invite you all to be learners in a very, very joyful way and contribute to lifelong learning. Thank you very much. And that's over to you, Anusha and Bobby, to take this further.
Yeah, sure. What we will do is we have finally Mr. Manoj Ahuja, who has joined us. And I invite Dr. Biswajit Saha to both welcome him and ask him to also give a few words. Dr. Saha?
Yes, thank you, Anusha. And in fact, Anju has given the actual experience. We are rather flowing through that experiential learning only. We are learning rather. Now we are really learner. In fact, Sir has also joined us in between. So let me welcome Sri Manoj Ahuja. He is Indian Administrative Service Officer, and by qualifications, sir, please. So just I'm sharing your brief profile with the audience. So sir is the Indian Administrative Service Officer, and he is serving the state of Odisha. And by qualifications, he completed his engineering, followed by MBA, then another international master degree from Harvard University. And sir has served in different capacity, starting from district magistrate to principal secretary in various departments in the state of Odisha, and also served in Government of India Planning Commission and other departments in various capacity. Just before joining CBSE, he was special director with Lal Bahadur Shastri National Academy of Administration, and he is presently additional secretary to Government of India, and we are fortunate to have him as a chairman, Central Board of Secondary Education. So let me welcome him. And sir, we have just started the session with Anju, and with us all leader principals are joining directly in this Google Meet. And of course, we are showcasing the program live through all our 22,000 schools. And also it is live in YouTube. And सर को मैं और एक रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा, आज इसी सेशन का सर हमारा जो ब्लॉग स्पॉट है वो भी आज आपसे हम शुभारंभ करेंगे. And in fact, this blog spot through which I think chat box is some way not so engaging. Of course, our principals are participating, but those who are viewing us through our live stream, they can also put their comment in that blog spot, and so that our experts, leader principals are going to respond them immediately. So मैं और ज़्यादा समय ना लेके सर को रिक्वेस्ट करता हूँ, जस्ट इस ब्लॉग स्पॉट का शुरुआत का साथ एक्सपीरियंशियल लर्निंग का ये जो आज का वेबिनार है उसमें अपना कीनोट एड्रेस दें. थैंक यू सर.
So thank you so much, Dr. Saha, and let me also extend a welcome to all the participants to this webinar. Actually, I was following the last presentation made by Anju, and it was flowing so beautifully. So I hate to actually be put in a position where I have to interrupt it. Come in between that presentation. And like you said, we all are learners, and I must compliment, I think, Anjuji, for your presentation, and I also must compliment the people behind this MOOC who developed this online course on experiential learning. We've been talking about these things, and we've been talking about different, let's say, thoughts about how we should ensure that children learn, put them in the center of learning, that it should be joyful, and giving them an environment where they're active participants in their own learning process. But I think the real difficulty is in getting it done. And I think the big step is to demystify whatever we are saying into something which could be understood by any teacher or any child, and it makes learning possible for them. So as if we kind of construct a meaning around it which becomes complex and needs experts and needs that level of understanding, then there's a disconnect between, let's say, ordinary school and teachers there and students. Whereas I think the examples you gave was so nice, just a paper plane. And the fact that you said that when you throw it, you can feel it's such a positive thing, and your child can feel that he's soaring or he's flying, and how many things you can connect with it. And I think this attempt which has been made, I think it's a massive step, and the direction in which we need to go. If we are able to develop this, empower our teachers, empower our school leaders and the principals in their schools as to how to go about it. They should have resources to tap onto, different activities and projects. Then I'm sure over a period of time in the coming years, we'll develop that culture which is based on experiential learning, where the child actually is, I mean, it's very sad that you pointed out that actually schooling has become stressful. I mean, that's the worst way in which we can impart learning. A child needs an environment where he can have fun, he's open, he's curious, and he can just let his imagination go without anybody telling him not to think that way or this way, and this is the right answer. And I think we need to, I am not able to kind of work it out, but we need to be together on this and really push it. Because if you ask me, the new curriculum, that the National Curriculum Framework 2006, or even if you read education policies, they've mostly been progressive. But our movement in this direction has been very episodic. We take 2 steps and then you do something else. We kind of take a step back, or probably because of not understanding the intricacies or the complexities of the system in its entirety, we push something and then we hold back, and not really go deep into it and see that it works out. And for that, I think a lot of people need to come together. A lot of people need to thinking this way, who will be able to contribute. We need to come together so that we can create that ecosystem. And I think a good concerted effort in this direction collectively by people who are able to contribute, who can think through, who can be resources for this, would be really, really helpful. So this could be a starting of a movement which we are able to bring down to schools and democratize this, so that this actually becomes a reality rather than something we end up discussing in only webinars or in schools which are different, or in any other places where we meet. So my sincere thanks to both Anju and Dr. Pascal from Mahatma Gandhi International School, TIS and Tata Trust, my own team, Dr. Saha and others, and all the others who have contributed to this, for this excellent work you've done. Look forward to working with you. And like I said, we need to sit down again, chart out a strategy so that we actually make it a mass movement. Work together and get it done. And we look forward to your cooperation and working together. So that's it. I think it's a beautiful presentation. I don't want to, step in with my bureaucraties. We should continue with those wonderful presentations, and I'll keep on listening. Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Manoj Ahuja. Dr. Saha, you want to okay.
Anusha, you please continue.
Yeah. So one, as Dr. Saha pointed out, the CBSE does have a very great forum for those who are especially tuning in on the live broadcast. Please share. It's cbsewebinar.blogspot.com. We will share this link again. And there are a lot of comments here, and please share your comments, and we will be listening and looking at these to also try and speak about it. So there are a lot of comments from different cities, and we have been posting out here. So please do continue posting. We will also be looking at the link, if you want it again, is definitely this cbsewebinar.blogspot.com. So yeah, sorry. So over to you, Naveen, to share the screen if you need to, or I can continue sharing. So Naveen, if you can share. Bobby, you can take over and tell us more about what the process was. As Anju said, it has been collaborative. There is more to come, and we have a lot more in terms of the units, and a lot of the ideas that Anju has shared, if you want to explore further, are there in the units, and what we are sharing are points from there, and we hope to have your engagement on it through the discussion forum as well. Yes, over to you, Bobby. Bobby is from Tata Trust, and she has been our strength and the push behind everything that has happened so far, for at least in the terms of MGIS and just when we have been collaborating. She's been a great binder. So, Bobby.
Thank you so much, Anusha, for setting the stage. But I have been really very pushy because we really wanted to get things done, and none of us in the team wanted to compromise on any bit regarding this course. So, this gives me a chance to just spend another 2 minutes to share how we actually came together. And Naveen, if you can just take us to the yes. So this is our little team, and so when CBSE connected with Tata Trust back in 2019, and that's July 2019, they presented us with the handbook on experiential learning. This handbook is a masterpiece. Beautifully they have laid out, experiential learning and how to go about it. But the task that was given to us was, we need an online course which is based on this handbook. And one thing we were very clear, that our course will not be just mere digitization of this handbook. No, we don't want that, because it's experiential learning, and we want our participants to be active, to be actually experiencing it. So it was a challenge set to us. So the picture that you can see is the picture of the think tank, which was a workshop happened in July 2019, where everyone is just, thinking, and Dr. Pascal was saying that, when we do experiential learning workshop, our teachers, they leave with tears in their eyes. Can we create such a course that teachers get that kind of emotional experience? So he set the bar very high for us. And nevertheless, I think Tata Trust, along with Tata Institute of Social Science, we all created a core team, and this team was led by Dr. Anju and Dr. Pascal. And the process that we followed in creating this course is a truly collaborative process. If I can tell you that we all are from different cities, states, different geographies. I have to sorry, this is the virtual thing going on. Yeah, so we are from different states, cities, different institutions, but this became one mission for all of us to come together and do a collaborative act. I also want to mention that, as I said, that the process started in July 2019. There's an entire timeline which you can see. This is how it kept us engaged. It was not an easy task to transform something which is on the text into an experience. So we followed this timeline. There was a pilot conducted around in June, and we really want to thank the team of teachers who gave their inputs in the pilot study also. Coming back to the same slide, I want to spend another minute on a couple of interesting design principles which you will experience while going through this course. One of the another principle is the interactivity. We want the course to engage the learners in the most interactive way, and that's why you will find very short stories and quick questions after our videos, which will make you pause and think. So it's not like you're just sitting and consuming the course. It will make you think and reflect on what you're engaging with. Another important point is engaging. So we have tried to make the course aesthetically appealing, because we all want to hold a beautiful book, right? So our course has to be as appealing as possible. Another principle is the practice-based pedagogy, and this is the most significant principle. We, as teachers, we are all practitioners. I'm also a teacher, by the way, had worked as a teacher in the past, and our knowledge is very much embedded in our practice. It's not out there that I can give you 5 theories of how teachers practice. So for us, this was the major task. We wanted to make it practice-based. So you will notice there are short videos, which before the video and after the video will make you think on the pedagogy used in that video. So you'll have to, so don't rush through the course. That is a request. Just stay with the questions, just spend time with it. There is one hindrance, or I mean something that maybe we are working on it, is to make our platform more interactive, maybe in the future, so with the finger crossed. But right now, wherever you find a chance to engage with the video, please have discussion with your peers, with your colleagues, and this Blogspot, which is going to be another initiative of CBSE, is our forte here. And please use this Blogspot to share your ideas, even however raw your idea is. It is a valuable idea because it is emerging from your practice. It is genuine and it's authentic. So please make use of the Blogspot. I will hand over to my colleague Bindu, and she will further talk on the other aspects of the design principle that we have. Yes, Bindu.
Thank you, Bobby. I think Anju, Bobby, Anusha, Mr. Manoj, even Dr. Saha have already said these things in different words, and I'm just going to emphasize the importance of a knowledge community. See, when we are talking about education theory, whether it's a theory on experiential learning or methodology on experiential learning, education theory is not like science laws. They're much, much more tentative. And like Bobby said, they come from our experience, from our work itself. But nevertheless, as tentative as they may be, they are very valuable tools to guide us as practitioners. Why? How do they guide us? They guide us to understand our practice. What are we doing? How are we doing it? How do we make sense of this practice? How do we know when it's working, when it's not working, why it's working or not working, right? And it is important for us to understand this theory and method through this experiential learning course, the theory which Anju has so nicely explained already on the webinar, and to kind of reflect on it and compare this theory with our own practice and our classroom activities, and kind of put the theory on one side and our practice, and actually compare it like a balance and see what is it we're doing, how does it connect to the theory. Now, what this does, it helps us understand our practice, it helps us improve our practice, and more importantly, it gives us an opportunity to actually enrich the theory itself. Education theory is like that. When as teachers, we connect with the theory and we are able to share these experiences, we make the theory itself richer. And how do we make this theory richer? And we make it for our context, our Indian classroom context. And how do we make this is, we are all learners, of course, but we're also all knowledge conscious only. And especially in a profession like teaching, knowledge is very much created by the practitioner and the teacher. So how do we make this happen? We make this happen through this knowledge community that CBSE has created through these blog spots. We share our experiences, we ask questions, we share issues, we discuss doubts, and together we want to make experiential learning really a part of all our teachers' daily classroom activities and form a kind of knowledge community around it. So it's not one teacher or one educator in a university working on theory. It is all of us together collaboratively enriching the theories of education. And that is very important to form, while this course is targeted to teachers. And teachers really work as professionals, we work in a social learning space. We learn from each other. And this knowledge community is such a place that we should learn from each other. And I think I just want to add that I've already looked at the blog spot, and there's one person who's written about integrating the 4 C's. It says integrating the 4 C's into experiential learning. This is Dr. Rajiv Singh. He's written about integrating 4 C's as educators preparing students in this new global society, and he calls the 4 C's critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and creativity. So already we are having more ideas about how to enhance the experiential learning. Another teacher who is unknown, unfortunately has not put the name here, I think from the Thiruvananthapuram, says experiential learning is a great way of enhancing pedagogical methods. Interestingly, this person says if used in the right way, learning can be made fun. So I would just like to say that the right way is not out there, like Bobby said, it's within us and within our practice. And when we are able to connect with theory and our practice, that's when we evolve a right way. And I would like to end it in this way, that it's very important that we also learn and engage collaboratively to make this go down to the classrooms and not just be at a policy level, like Mr. Manoj Ahuja said. We have to bring it down to every teacher and therefore every student. Thank you.
Thank you, Bindu. And it's wonderful to see. And we would urge, because it's all on the same site, you can actually see all the different communities, all the different states and geographies coming together. And these are all centers of excellence and teachers coming together. So it would be wonderful to see it. If you don't still have the webinar link, the Blogspot link, it is it's a very simple link. Naveen, would you be sharing it? It's in the presentation, CBSE webinar. And it has an HTTPS / that comes in. So if you just type in the webinar, CBSE webinar.blogspot.com, you'll be able to see it. So that's wonderful there. And yes, please do share. We are reading your comments with great zeal. And we hope to continue this community and continue learning from you and with you and sharing more kinds of resources. And Bobby was talking about how we want to make this more interactive. We could not, unfortunately, make it as interactive as we wanted to on the Diksha platform itself. So we've been exploring these alternate spaces that we can include to bring in these interactivities and to hold a continuum of, to share as such. Okay, what I'm going to do is, take you through one element. Is one thing that I'm sure a lot of you will be asking is, what do we do now? Like, yes, you have spoken about the course, and maybe some of you are already doing the course, but the ones who have not yet explored the course, we want to talk to you about, go to the Diksha platform, diksha.gov.in, and we know that you will already have this platform, so we're just sharing this. Yeah. And when you are linked onto this, Naveen, if your connectivity is faster, I'd be happy to stop sharing. It would be courses. And if you click on courses and you search for CBSE courses, you will see experiential learning right there. You can just select the organization and check out if you want to look at it. You can search it in different ways. I'm just showing you one of the ways. And please log in. And all that we have been speaking about right now is coming from this element. So this is the course. This is the card you have been seeing on our first slide right at the beginning. And the course details are right here. It's a click, click, click kind of a portion. You can do this on your mobile phones, on your applications, on your browser. There is an app for this if you have Android phones. And so there are multiple ways that you can be accessing these course spaces. And some of what we have introduced to you actually comes from this login of what introduction to the courses. And if you see on the right side, these are things that Bobby was talking about, where she said that there is questions and there is an activity that is planned, and there is a video sometimes explaining, and again questions, and sometimes a reading given, and certain other kinds of experiments that are being given. So it's a very simple thing. I don't want to take too much of your time on this. These are things that we have already kind of shared, and you can explore. And if you have any problems again here, you can definitely come onto the blog and share with us your ideas. This could be for any blog. I think I have clicked on the post with comments for Thiruvananthapuram because that's what I was seeing last. But you will see every other kind of post out here. cbsewebinar.blogspot.com, right? Okay, so moving on, we do have, Anju started with this entire exercise where, sorry, I will have to stop sharing it. Anju started off with this entire exercise of how to make it more interactive. We are very, very conscious that we do want to make it very interactive. And we have one small activity for everyone, wherever you are, however you are consuming this platform in a sense. We do have an activity for you also at the end. So I hope that you will join us in doing that activity also very quickly. I just want to take you through one small outline of what the course is, since I was not able to share the screen at that time. I'll just explain. We have organized the structure, as Anju said, as Unit 1, which is saying what. Today's webinar is in a way that. Unit 2 is how. There will be future webinars that talk about it. And Unit 3 is why. And there are resources at the end where we have tried to, and the pilot that Bobby was talking about has generated more resources and more feedback as to what we can share with you. And we hope to keep adding to these and building on these as such. So,
can I just add one thing, Anusha, for the benefit of everyone? It's that all the films that you're going to be watching in the course are actually filmed in real classrooms, in real CBSE schools. And of course, we're very thankful for the schools that allowed us to do this, along with the team of other pedagogical teachers like Ravinder and Meenu, who you will see in the video. But I think the main idea was that we want to go inside the black box, as it were, because a lot of theories are sometimes disconnected, or teachers always ask this, "Ye sab to theek hai, lekin jab main classroom mein hongi, how do I do this? How do I, ensure that the kids are engaged?" Or we all have different issues. So this I think this is one of the first times that such an experiment has been done, where these are not scripted films. We ran the activities as they're meant to run. So the teachers were trained quickly. And what is wonderful, as some of you put on the chat box today, those who've done the course, is that in the video, you will see the English language teacher teaching physics. to 8th or 9th standard kids, and that was a fantastic thing. And for the children, you will see the response also. I won't give away. I won't be a spoiler, no spoiler alerts. So this is just what I wanted to share with you. And another thing I want to just share with you, because it's really important. Unit 1, the film that you will see was edited by Dabi, a graphic designer who had left everything all of a sudden from in Ahmedabad to join us. I don't know why he did it. He did it, and within 1 or 2 months, he left this physical world. And that was in January where he left. And I think we kept the film as it was without changing anything because we just wanted to honor. He said you can change or whatever, but we didn't. So the Unit 1 film is actually done by a man who followed his intuition. Maybe he knew he has to go because he left everything. He sold everything. He said, I want to work with children. He came to us and we did that. So it's to honor the memory of everyone who is here physically and even not here physically. And one last thing I want to do, a personal note also, is that our own daughter is not in this physical world. And I want to tell everyone who's here today, who are parents, who are educators, because most of you are parents also. Life brings its own storms. It brings terrific challenges. And our education system has never, unfortunately, given us the wherewithal to face the storms of life. What really helps us is when we are able to find our calling in life, vocare, vocation, life purpose. And what Pascal and I were able to do after that was precisely that we found our calling in education, so we were able to continue to move forward. For us, every child is our own child that we lost, because these children are still here, and we know our daughter guides us from another world. But what I want to tell you is that if we don't take the leap forward to change the education system for the children who are in this world, we failed our own duty as educators. And I want to thank the CBSE for being so brave. I'm on a lot of international forums. I want to tell them that the world is looking at India with great interest. They are asking me continuously, when is your program going to go online? We are very keen, because if India can succeed at this huge scale, we would have made a huge impact in education. And I think that's our duty, and of course it will be a joy. So that was just my 2-bit from my heart that I wanted to share with you all. Thank you. Now you can continue, Anusha.
Thanks, Anju. And yes, Tara and Dabi's, legacy in a way is also there in this, in that sense. So I'm going to just very quickly, because I'm conscious of the time, just quickly take you through the fact that while this is for 4 hours, but there is a lot of going back and forth, and one of the, we hope that you will be able to give us more reflections on how, how you went through the course and what did you like about it and what you did not on the CBSE blogs, but also through your participation here. And the aim is, of course, to prepare ourselves and our students for the 21st century and enable them to face not only this COVID-19 kind of pandemic challenges, but all the other kinds. So yes, the form and content, in a sense, it's very media friendly, and these are points that we have been covering over a period of time. And there are lesson plan templates that we have shared with you, and that you can use and download and print and also modify at your own convenience. All of this is free resources, and as everything on Diksha is Creative Commons use, so all of this is, of course, used for you. And please do share back with us, if you can, some of what you yourself might be doing, even in terms of what is in the online space. So we hope that we can share a few more ideas about what to do in online spaces. And all of this is on the site of diksha.gov.in resources. Moving on to the element of interactivity, what you see on your screen is this very short site called menti.com. If you can just spend 1 minute of your time moving to this site and just clicking, typing in on your browser menti.com, and this, the code is given to you, 334266. And if you can just type in, there are 2 words. We would like you to share your experiences. And that's all that, I mean, we're not ending it right away, but this is nearing the end. And we would like to understand from you what you're feeling before we move on to asking one other participant, a great esteemed leader of ours, our chairperson, to also share a few ideas with us. But if you can share with us on Menti and type in the code 334266, that's the code. I'll just give 1 minute for this exercise. So what you can see is, as you're all typing in, I hope you're now able to see.
Anusha, you're not sharing, I think.
Okay, I'll just share again. Yeah, I'll just share this again. Yeah, 1 second. We are getting quite a few responses, and I'm very glad to see the kind of responses we are getting.
Ma'am, can we have the code again, just once again, please?
334266. You can see on the top of this page also there, 334266. Yeah.
Thank you.
Menti.com. Yeah. And it's something that you can use. It's absolutely free. You can use this in your own classes and to get the students to interact as an online forum as well. And whatever is actually highlighted is that many people have typed in the excited or happy or excellent. And so you can see that it is constantly dynamically shifting. Thank you so much for your feedback. You can continue with this element out here, definitely with us. Okay. And this is just one moment that we are taking out of our time to be adding to this code, but we can also continue discussing and sharing on our discussion page of our forum. And definitely on this page, we can, continue with all these ideas. So we're very glad and grateful for your cooperation out here. I'm conscious of the time, so I'll very quickly ask Padma to, okay, I'll quickly introduce the center chairperson from Center for Education Innovation and Action Research at Tata Institute of Social Science. For Bindu and me, she has been kind of a guiding principle of how to take this forward. And she is one of those people who has been a part of the committee in terms of the National Curriculum Framework of 2005, and she continues to be a leader in education. So over to you, Professor Padma Sarangapani, just a few words, and we'll go on to the next part.
Thanks a lot, Anusha. And hello to colleagues at CBSE and school principals. At this, we are really very honored and excited that we have been a part of this important initiative and becoming a part of this ecosystem. I think there's a lot that we need to achieve collaboratively together, contributing the different kinds of expertises that we can bring to make bigger things happen. And especially with our own work in the online learning space, I've realized how collaborative this work needs to be in order to achieve something which is high quality and meaningful to users. So just as Anju so very eloquently outlined principles of experiential learning and how important experience is for students, children's learning particularly, I just want to share with you that at this we are committed to supporting teacher professional development using the principles of social learning. Most of professional learning is social in its nature, and making it practice-based, which means that the opportunity to connect back with our practice is really the source of the learning and consolidating the learning. So I hope that the team has been able to pull all the rich experience of the last 5 years of our own work in this space to bring you something that will meaningfully intersect with your lives. And I'm particularly excited to look at where the experiential learning course itself will go. It symbolizes one of the most important principles of the NCF 2005 of making experience the center of the learning process. And I think this initiative of the CBSE is very important because, needless to say, see what CBSE does today, the rest of the country will do tomorrow. So this is really the start of an important experience. And I hope all of you will be open to having us come back and interact with you after this program has run in your own schools, because we would like to tell the stories of what is working well, what is not working so well, and together with you, strengthen this agenda of transformation in the Indian education landscape. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you so much, Padma. And yeah, we are continuing to get a lot of feedback on the Menti as such. And thank you for all of that as well. What we will move on to is, right. So what we will move on to is say, now what? Now that we have had the webinar, now what? Well, as teachers, we will do the course on Diksha platform. We will try to think of certain strategies on how we can do this in small incremental steps. And some, as Bindu was reading out to you, have already pointed out, there could be something as simple as communication or collaboration or anything. Think of certain activities and talk about how we may want to perhaps even reteach socializing in a very safe manner, as students have been away from us for such a long period of time, and think of how these activities can be out there. We are leaving this open for a very short while. We wanted to actually leave it for 20 minutes or so for questions, but we will try and collate all of this, and we will definitely get back to you on some of the questions, even if we don't have all the time. Please share your questions with us, either on the blog, as pointed out. We can share the blog in the sense. Sorry, so I don't know whether you can see this. Yeah, so we can share it on the blog, and we can share it on the chat right now as well. So, okay, and we can also share it on the chat box out here. Kritika, were there any other questions that particularly struck you? Then we can take some of them.
Yes, there's
if not, yes.
already one or two here.
Yes.
So one of it is some emphasis on the COBS model, basically, is what people want to know from you. Has there been emphasis on the COBS model here in the course?
Anju, do you want to take that up?
Sorry, I didn't get the question. Can you repeat it, Kritika?
Sure. So somebody's asked if there's emphasis on the COBS model in this course.
Yes, of Kolb's model. No, we haven't directly used all the aspects of Kolb's model. There is this whole aspect about experience and reflection. One of the critiques of Kolb's model was precisely that there was not enough of interactive, seamless way of doing things. So we brought that and we've addressed that kind of a critique. So we're not limited to Kolb's model, but there are, since it's experiential learning, we've gone back also to the heart of it with John Dewey's work, and therefore you will see many of these aspects reflected. But it's not purely Kolb's model, I would say. And we brought in, the things that we showed you, the different, practitioners, we've got their ideas also in. So a lot of collaborative work and a lot of multi-sensory work, etc. you will see there, which is also coming from our own practice.
Okay. Another question which came from Shania John from Fatima Public School is that if you could please suggest some platforms like quizzes and Kahoot, etc., something which is more effective to make teaching more fulfilled at this point in time.
Okay, we can share resources. Maybe what we will try and put up is on the blog itself. We can try and use that as a platform. Bindu, did you have something to add to that? Definitely from an online perspective, we do have lists of resources that we can share that can be utilized in a more fruitful manner. And we do have future and forthcoming sessions that will come through. Yes.
Yes. So the importance of interaction and how do we, make the online sessions interactive and not just students watching either a video or watching a teacher, talk. I think that is important. And like, there are many ways you can think of tasks that they can do with things around their house. You can think of some tools that Anusha is very good at identifying. She will put it on the blog. There are all these, like this menti.com. There are these tiny tools which you can use online to make it a little bit more exciting. And importantly, enable some amount of chatting with your students when you are taking the course. I know it's kind of intimidating because you have 30 or 40 students who are trying to log in sometimes, and students are students, they're kids, they want to be disruptive, they want to try different things, they probably, try to do things with a video or do some funny chat, and might distract you in the teaching. But as I have kids too, I think if you don't do that interaction, they're just bored. They're just sitting there passively and really not listening to the teacher. So importance is to make that session interactive, and also to find new tasks that people can do with their hands at home. It doesn't have, everything doesn't have to be watching a screen. You can do things, you can do a sketch, you can do a painting and just show it in front of the screen, or a little sketch and show it. So there are many things you can do with your hand, and take a photo of it and share it with your class. So that's how you should make it interactive, the online session.
There is an interesting question. Sorry, Bindu, please finish. Then.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, there's an interesting question in the chat box, Kritika, if you permit me, by Sangeeta ji, Dr. Sangeeta Bhatia, and she has written, and of course we'll expect that from her. Do we not go from abstract knowledge by dreaming about something and experiential learning, and we crystallize from our dreams into something concrete? So is that against the Piaget's model? And I know Pascal wants to jump into this, so I'll allow him to say this.
Yes, actually dreaming is a concrete, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. Yes.
Dreaming
Yes,
all used to you.
All used to you.
All yours, she's saying.
Dreaming is a concrete experience. Actually, when we speak about the 5 senses, we are limiting the consciousness that we have of the world. Actually, we have much more than 5 senses. And even in the Indian philosophy, we speak about, each sense as a reflection into a more expanded, it is called, like you have Divya Chakshu, which is the, the clairvoyance. You have the clairaudience. These are senses. When you dream, you are using these senses, and which is why going from the dream, if you allow the dream to be expressed and to be lived on, there is something which is called the lucid dreaming. That means that when you work on your dream, you can come to the point where your dream becomes a very, very real experience, because you live it and you are conscious of the dream. So which is why when you reach this level, and I think it is very important to work on that with the children, because the children have this innate ability to live their dream and to go into lucid dreaming. And this is something that we are losing when we become adult. So absolutely going from the dream to the abstract is concrete to abstract also.
And I think I would add to what you're saying about the inner experience and the inner reality of the child, which is often not taken into consideration. The intuition part also. I mean, when you're looking at mathematicians like Ramanujan, so much of intuitive ability, all his formulations came from his dreamscape or dream world, in fact. So are we honoring that in our classroom or not? I think nurturing those abilities are very, very important to make for a more holistic experience of learning. And for development of human potential. Yes, thank you, Sangeeta ji, for posting that.
Okay, there's another question. From Maheshwari Natarajan, she says that if you can give us some more reading links for further reference.
So reading links, but in what domain? Is it in education or?
And yeah, and we also have a few readings as Unit 4 resources in the course itself. So, but definitely if you have any specific questions, then you can definitely post on the blog for us to be able to perhaps thoughtfully come back with an answer which is ahead of it. But definitely look at Unit 4 resources. We do have a few reading links, etc. posted there from what we have used in our course design and others. Yeah.
Another question, do we have time?
Yeah, one more question, yes.
Okay, so Mrs. Diptrani Singh, the principal of Youngblood School, Kalahindi, Orissa, asked that how can we conduct the assessment to the students through we are providing online education. Since we are providing online education, how can we conduct assessments these days?
Okay, we have so many ways of doing online assessments. We also need to perhaps, as we are rethinking teaching, rethink assessments and also think about whether we are assessing for learning or we are assessing of something that we have taught to test in that sense. So is it just rote memory? So if not, then something in terms of Mentimeter or what someone else pointed out as Kahoot. These are ways that we can take up in terms of both open response and closed response queries. But what about also trying to see as we started this session with a mudra session of sharing and experimenting. Now, if you had given this as an activity, people would have gone and researched what mudras are, would have come and found out something that is there to identify themselves as mudra. So they're establishing their identity. Then they might perhaps have an example of why they chose it, which is an explanation that comes in. All of these as an activity that we just started off can be linked into how you want to bring in assessment. So it's a beautiful wide canvas that we have right now, and we can collaborate and share. I will just take in one other question because
one second, sorry. Before we go to the next question, Anusha, I just want to come back to this thing about assessment. First of all, I don't like the word assessment at all. It scares me. It brings back all my memories of feeling very scared before exams. So I would really like to move away from those words which scare children too. I would say we can look about evaluation rather than, because evaluation comes from the French word which evaluate, which means give value to. So, you know, the whole question about assessment, even if you use that term, is why are you doing the assessment? Aap kari kyun rahe ho? Is it because you want to test how much the child has understood, or you want to as a corrective measure for your own teaching methodology? And I think for me, evaluation would be first to give value to what the child knows, to valorize the child. And secondly, I would use some sort of feedback mechanism so that I can understand, has the child followed what I have done or not. So I think it would be nice to move away from some of the things in the current situation of COVID and post-COVID, and to move towards more stress-free things. If at all we want to look at the track, let us just put it this way. Create mechanisms of feedback. Reflection में भी feedback आ जाता है. जब बच्चा बोल रहा है कि मुझे ये समझ में आया, नहीं आया, what was difficult, what was not, children share together. So they can create their own grade, they can create their own criteria. So I think empowering the children to evaluate themselves, reflect and evaluate themselves, and give feedback to the teacher might be more empowering. One more tip I'd like to give you: when I was preparing children for state board exams, there's a lot of rote learning and textbook learning ka tha. So us samay maybe what I did was I asked the children to prepare their own quizzes. So each group prepared their own quizzes based on what they were supposed to memorize in fun ways, and then they ran the quizzes themselves for each other. So the thing is that shift it away from a teacher-dominated mechanism of taking the assessment or whatever you may call it, and find ways to make the children do it on their own. I would really suggest more stress-free ways, especially in the current times and even in the future. That is my 2 bit.
Yeah, I think you already have a continuous and comprehensive process of evaluation that has been recommended on this basis as such. There's miles that we can get into with evaluation and assessment. So
I think formative evaluation would be good. Continuing with formative and that would be much more doable.
So yeah, conventional categories of how we look at it are different, and so we can go ahead and focus on it. More than the terms, I think it is important that we keep the spirit of what we want to do, which is that ultimately we just want to understand whether the child is learning, and we want to understand how better we can enable the child to learn and become a lifelong learner. I think if we keep those two principles in mind, I think we will be able to, whatever terms we use, we can go ahead in life with a proper methodology of teaching. I will, yeah, if there's anything else, we can please share it on this entire forum that we have of the blog. I'm not going to continue with it because we're already at the end of the fag end of gone overboard by quite a bit of time. What we would like to talk about at the end is state that, of course, there is a course and there is an engagement in terms of the webinars, and we will continue to engage with you in terms of the practice, in terms of the communities of practice that we hope to develop through the blogs. And this is an entire continuum, and we don't stop here. We have just begun. And that's what I would like to end with, the fact that this is the beginning. If anyone else would like to have a few words, Bobby, do you want to say anything? Otherwise, we can come to an end.
Yeah, just the last bit that we, there are two people from the platform, Ikpreet, Niharika, who really helped us. We have bothered them at 12 in the night, so I cannot leave this meeting without mentioning them. So they're from the Xstep team. Thank you so much if any one of them is here. Yeah.
Okay.
I think Abhimanyu, Mrs. Abhimanyu Yadav is raising her hand on the screen. I can see her since some time. Perhaps if you have a minute, we can ask her to share what she wants to share.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm Kamaljeet Yadav. It's my son's name that was there.
Okay, so
yeah. It's related to assessment. Last week, I was talking to parents through a webinar, and in that, the teachers had already given some kind of practice unit test schedule to parents. And when the word assessment came, most of the children, as was stated by the parents, especially in primary classes, came under stress. It made me reflect again, why am I taking unit test? Why the teacher is focusing so much on unit test? Because at this time of pandemic, we are not to create and add more of the stress on them. Hence, I say that for the time being, on the feedback of parents and otherwise also as a teacher, as a principal, I realized, yes, the word assessment, the word exam, the word test puts all of us in stress. Then why not to look for something else? And Anju ma'am, I'm fortunate enough to attend your lectures, and this is third time I'm attending, and it has been bringing a lot of, I can say that transformation in my own thinking as well. I have never been in favor of having this kind of, rote learning. I always have thought of something that liberates a child, that makes a child more confident, that makes a child who can learn, because learning is joy. And until unless we have enjoyment, there is no learning. That's what I wanted to share. Thank you very much for sharing my opinion. Thank you.
And on that note, I can't see a few others on the screen, but I hope I have permission from Dr. Saha to say that we can wind up today. And we hope to see you again very soon. And definitely thank you all for sharing your evening with us. And we hope that we will continue to have this interaction with you through the entire series. Yes. Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Something like this one.
Okay.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Oh.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
I have this one. Yes.